Brady's gonna furnish us with his tale.
This is back when I was working at the Museum of Hard House in Manchester.
Were you not relieved of your post there in under somewhat...
That's one aspect of the traumatic nature of this tale, Mr. Cornwell.
What the hell happened there?
Well, I don't know whether it was something I ate or whether it was a viral infection. But one morning, at about 10:15, I was overcome with this compelling urge to go to the toilet, and as I was approaching the toilet it became apparent that I wasn't entirely in 100% control of the progression in time of the experience. So I sort of ran into the toilet. Unfortunately there was a cubicle free. Such was the nature of the illness that I didn't quite have time to pull my trousers all the way down. Rather than going into the bowl of the toilet, it sort of went into the seat of my pants. And
oh dear.
Unfortunately, it sort of bounced upwards in a kind of concentrated upwards, well, almost like a beam, I suppose. Rather like the way that a satellite dish focuses the sort of spray of radiation from a satellite. This is similar, I suppose, similar physics. And sort of sprayed up. And
what, like the kind of scoop shape of your undies?
Exactly that.
Right.
Exactly that. Scoop of the underpants. Sprayed up all the way up my front, all the way up my back. I suppose it must have got several feet over my head, and then what was left sort of rained down on top of me. And then that was the moment at which I finally sat down on the seat, and I realised that I was in some not inconsiderable amount of trouble. I didn't really know what to do, you know. I couldn't risk stepping out of the cubicle because, you know, in the middle of the day...
There's children wandering around in the museum, you know, mothers and children enjoying the Hard House exhibits that don't necessarily want to see a man with a big ginger beard wandering around with excrement all over his front.
Absolutely. It's not what they come to the museum for, is it? So I had no choice. I had to man it out in the cubicle for the rest of the day. You know, at the Museum of Hard House, they have a siren to denote that the museum's closing. So I heard the siren, the museum closing. And then I was vaguely aware of the building becoming silent. And actually, in a way, that was rather beautiful. Not an experience that you have very often. You know, your place of work. It's really feeling the flow of the day, the ebb and flow of the activity in that architectural context. So in a sense then I was free, you know, there was no one going to come in, there's no CCTV in the toilet, but in another sense I was trapped because the alarm system locks the building down, and you know, there aren't sensors in the toilet, but I couldn't really move beyond the confines of the gents itself. So.
You must have got quite hungry.
I was off my food, to be honest, Mr. Cornwell, for various... This is it, you see. I'm still covered in this stuff. I don't know what you call it. It's this sort of... syrupy. I had to do something about it. So I got up, and I thought it was going to take me literally forever to wash it all off. And the danger of just spreading it around the bathroom is too great. So I thought, right, I'll use the hot air dryer, turn it on, got underneath, then dried myself off, dried it to a crust, at which point you can feel it popping free of the skin.
Oh, the feeling of relief must have been extraordinary.
It was amazing, Mr. Cornwell. It was euphoric, and I was simply able to lift this like a mask, like a bust.
But yet it was still flexible to not crack.
It's rather like the texture of wattle and daub, which was used to make buildings up until the invention of when people started using brick, and it held together very well. And so then I popped a couple of tiles out of the drop ceiling in the bathroom there, and tucked the cast on top, and then back into the cubicle. Fell asleep until morning, obviously, and then when I was woken by the sound of people walking around the museum again, and I steeled myself, walked out the bathroom, holding my nerve, went back to my laboratory and got on with my...
Just to interject here, Brady, it says quite a lot about the consistency of your grout. Not only was it able to dry to a sort of a husky shell, but remain flexible enough for you to remove it without leaving any understain. It even came out of your hair and beard. You didn't get the tube home, did you?
I
You
walked.
walked.
And obviously I had a shower that night. And I thought, great, I've got away with that. And for a week or so, life was fine. I felt better in myself, and the smell went away. It was more or less exactly 1 week later. I went into work, and I got a feeling that something was wrong. People behaving very strangely towards me. And when I got up to the floor where my laboratory is situated there, I popped into the gents, and horror upon horrors, a sort of step ladder and tiles missing from the drop ceiling, and they got electricians in putting new strip lighting in.
No.
And
no, that's just not okay.
It's not. And I got a note asking me to go and see the human resources manager immediately. And when I went into her office, at first I thought there were 2 people in the room there, and then in fact I discovered it was her in one seat, and then next to her it was my cast staring across the desk at me.
Your turd self sat there
In effect.
in a chair.
Yes, and neither of them said a word, but it was clear the message. It was clear how that conversation was going to go. I walked out, went home, tendered my resignation, and my career at the Museum of Hard House drew to a close.
So, you find yourself here at the Museum of Techno.
Yes.
Based on how much you like techno and dislike hard house, this has either ended up being a good thing for you, or you...
Well, do you know what it is, Mr. Cornwell? I think hard house has bad memories for me.
It's a retrospective negative.
I think so. I hear the beats and the Hoover sounds and the BPMs and like we were saying earlier, Mr. Cornwell, unpleasant memories.
Well, fair play to you, Brady. It's not a story that anyone would really like to have to endure.
No.
I endured it.
Yes. We should probably have a discussion about how much of the story we publish.
Well, there's one outstanding question to be asked, Brady.
Right, well, ask away, mate. We've crossed the Rubicon, really.
What happened to the cast?
Well, the statue of Brian Blessed on the front steps of the museum outside here?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, why would a museum of techno have a statue of Brian Blessed?